Hello, beautiful people. You're welcome to a very special edition of Caritas Connect live on TMR TV. So today we are gathered to discuss or confront a harsh reality that too many children face. That is, they trade their dreams for labor and their dignity for survival. So discussing this topic with me is Fatifa Alvi Manka, the host and the voice of compassion for this program. And joining me, we have Miss Berlin Mungwa at my far left, who is a worker at Sina Life, GBV assistant, giving children a voice and fighting for justice. We equally have Mr. Carlson Tanywe at my right, a mental health advocate and coordinator at NISA Mental Health Services, Restoring Minds and Hearts. We also have Mr. Collins from Caritas of the Diocese of Boya, the liaison officer, safeguarding lives on ground. You all are welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. So we have as a tradition or as a habit of showcasing the activities of Caritas of the Diocese of Boya for our communities to better connect. So we are going to take on this live report and we'll be back shortly. I guess the report has some issues, so we are just going to hear from Mr. Collins Foka if there are any updates from Caritas, and then we are going to move on. Mr. Collins?
Once more, good afternoon, everyone. Today we are here on air to talk about child labor, and in Caritas we have been doing a lot as concerns child protection, ensuring that children are not abused. But the question is, are parents or guardians aware of all this? Are they aware of what is called child abuse, or they are stick to their cultural norms or religious beliefs of empowering a child when it comes to duties or responsibilities at home? But we often have seen situations where parents still do not know. A lot of parents or guardians are not aware of what actions to be taken or responsibilities to be given to children under age 18.
Yeah.
The first question is, who is a child? Who is a child? A child is a person who is below 18 years and considered to be in the development stage of growth. And at this stage, we believe that children aged below 18 are in the learning stage and also growth stage and dependency stage from the maybe on the parents.
That's right.
So parents still lack a lot of ideas as concerns child labor. At the level of Caritas, we have had a lot of sensitizations in the field, making sure that we give educative talks in schools, in the Njangi houses, in cultural groups, to make sure people are aware of all these situations or what they have to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
To differentiate between the responsibilities that can be given to an adult and also the child.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that has been established as far as what Caritas has been doing. So let's hear from you, Miss Berlin. What there is like a thin line between child labor and child abuse. It's true that child labor falls under child abuse. So can you like establish like a clear definition of what child labor is and what child abuse is?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We are going to. I will now start with child labor. I will give a very brief definition of child labor.
Yeah.
So we all know, or I would say, child labor is simply the exploitation of children through extremely hard work. Yeah, that would be the simple definition of child labor: the exploitation of children through extremely hard work. And child abuse and child labor share a lot in common. With child abuse, we see that we give work to children, which, as he said, a child is anyone below the age of 18. So when we apportion work to children which is above their capacity, when we when we apportion work to children which is above their capacity, which they cannot do, we now term that as child abuse, because we are abusing them by handing over to them work which is above their capacity.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Mr. Carlson, can you please help us understand the repercussions that child labor and abuse have on the mental health and the overall development of children?
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Alvin. And first of all, I would like to say that children go through stress.
Yeah.
Children face trauma. Children can be traumatized as well, and that is one thing that parents are failing to understand, and the society as a whole is failing to understand. And for the fact that not only children that we see, but those with learning disabilities, children with maybe we have children with maybe ADHD or autism and all that. You know, they go through a lot of challenges because they find difficulties to function properly in the society, and that is one thing that people don't understand, and they get to have a lot of neglect when it concerns them. And when we're talking of child labor or child abuse, sometimes people out there think when they talk of child abuse, they're just talking about maybe rape and all that.
Yeah.
But it has to do with their emotions, it has to do with their physical, it has to do with their cognitiveness, and it also have to do with neglect.
Yeah.
So one thing that I feel like children face nowadays a lot is neglect. It's neglect. When parents and guardians don't listen to their cry, they don't listen to their plea. When a child is complaining of this, hey, this uncle is touching me this way, maybe it's because that uncle is sponsoring that child through school.
Yeah.
You tend to like, okay, just understand. You will pass. Next year you go to that other uncle's house now. So I think that affects their reasoning, affects their mental health so much.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We've gotten to the basis, or now we know what child abuse is, child labor is, and we know how it affects the child, both when they are very younger or tender, and when they grow up. So if you're just tuning in, you're on to the program Caritas Connect live on ZMR TV, and we are discussing the topic child labor, abuse, and safeguarding in faith and community spaces. So we've had a clear explanation on all of that. So now, are communities truly protecting children from labor and exploitation, or they just turn a blind eye, like you earlier said, to like neglect all of these things that go on just to see that there is survival based off the children?
One thing I want to say is the question is two-sided.
Yeah.
There are communities that fight against child labor and child abuse, but I want to take it from this point of view, probably from when I was growing up. Communities sometimes, especially in rural areas, they don't know how to differentiate between exploitation and help.
Yeah.
When we're growing up, it is common for us to get up this morning. We are very young. We are working the whole day in this neighbor's farm. The next day, we gather and we go to the next neighbor's farm. So an excess of it throughout, and we don't even know the limitation. That is already exploitation. So I think communities as well, yeah, to be specific, communities don't actually practice a lot of child protection norms and all that. Yeah. And when we talk of maybe their cultural norms too in some communities, there are cultural norms that don't even respect the rights of children. Yeah. And sometimes even us as CSOs or NGOs, we go to maybe sensitize, and we go and do the wrong thing while we're trying to sensitize. Take for example, in a community where we say girls are not allowed to, or women are not allowed to talk, or girls are not allowed to talk, and raise and say their complaints, and you go there, you try to break that community and to organize a seminar to talk on maybe a girl's right or the right of a child, and the next thing is, okay, they say, okay, yes, come and host your program, and your first person to talk to the elders, the men you have called, is a woman. Do you think you will ever come to that community? They will never accept you. So most of the times is how we approach them to how they accept us. That has to play a lot about how we handle cases of child abuse in communities.
Okay, I would like to share something on that, where you say is culture enabling this child labor thing, I for one would say that there is no culture that stipulates child labor. For example, an example of this child labor maybe is child trafficking or sale of children. There is no culture that says that you should traffic your child, you should sell your child, or maybe you should give out your child for prostitution or the rest. So you cannot simply say that culture is promoting child labor because they don't actually stipulate it.
Anyways, thank you. Okay,
Yes,
intervene.
I think that what she's saying, I want to differ a little. I think when you look at culture and issues of child abuse, you'll be tempted to compare maybe the culture and the availability of resources.
Yes.
Because if you look at cultures or areas where people have resources that can be able to cater for either foster children or taking care of all, or maybe an inclusive step towards the growth of children, you will discover that the reasoning faculty of the children are really high up there because they have available resources and the resources have shaped the ideas of the culture in that particular community. So the growth and the learning process of children within a certain context will also depend, not limited on the culture, but on the availability of resources. When you look at issues of poverty, children don't go to school because some families they lack resources, maybe to pay their children in school. It is not a cultural norm that children should not go to school. It is lack of resources, and once they have the resources, they can easily shape the ideas or maybe the cultural context to feed the growth and learning process of those children within the community. Like he said, that people still do not really understand what is called child labor in communities. Yes, we are right, and all of us, we grow up maybe in rural communities where we believe that maybe just in primary schools, for example, you'll be in school and they will pay teachers to you, maybe you go and carry blocks. It is child abuse because you see the kind of heavy load that you carry when you were still tender in primary schools. It actually works on your growth level and affects your mentality also.
In our communities, child labor and abuse is silencing many voices, like we all know. And do you think child labor is still accepted, or is accepted in homes, markets, farms, and even in churches under the guise of training or disciplining children?
Okay, I would say child labor as a training or discipline. It depends on the individual, but we frown against this child labor, like harsh forms of violence. We frown against it, and so it should be said that child labor should not even be considered as a training, neither should it be considered as a discipline, since we frown against it. And when you come to the aspect of church, if they hide it or they support it, I'll be talking based on my religion. I'm a Christian, and in our church we preach against it and we even scrutinize it. So when it comes to religion, I'm talking about Christianity as a whole. I don't think they support this child labor of a thing, since they scrutinize it. But I cannot say for other religions.
Yeah.
Maybe the Muslim, they have their own way. I'm talking on the part of Christian.
Okay, Mr. Collins, you are a part of Caritas, which is a faith-based organization. So, what do you think about all of this?
Caritas under the Catholic Church. In the Catholic Church, we preach against child labor of all forms. That is why we have Caritas out to sensitize the population against child labor. And Caritas is the charitable arm of the Catholic Church, and also carrying out social activities within the communities. We have had maybe cases where foster children are living with parents and they happen to be abused in one way or the other.
Yes.
But as a faith-based organization, we have been able to carry out sensitization, not just limited to local communities, also on the church groups.
Yeah.
And they are also acting as focal point persons within the communities to help sensitize other areas that are inaccessible for us within, not just limited to in Fako division and in other rural areas.
Okay.
Okay. Alright,
Anything short?
I would just like to maybe look into it in another sense and another aspect when we talk of maybe how training and maybe faith-based organizations
Yeah.
handling child abuse or child labor and all that. First of all, I want to say most of the times when it concerns training, I want to say in rural areas, sometimes hard labor is seen as a way of growth, a way to strengthen a man, a way to strengthen a child. If you want to be a woman, you must know how to work the farm. If you want to do this, you must know how to do this. And most of the times, poverty too. Parents send their children at the age of maybe 5, 6 into maybe hard labor, mechanic, and all that, not because they want to, because they cannot afford maybe basic education for them to go to school. So most of the times, and their patrons, wheresoever they are working, might not know the limits of where or what the job description of a child,
Yeah.
what the child should do and not to do. You cannot ask the child to go and support another elder to lift an engine. That is not good. And most of the time, those are some of the things that we fail to understand, and people out there fail to understand that, okay, there are limits. Like, for instance, in Cameroon, the age for employment for a child is 14. That a child can actually begin to maybe send a child for vocational training. That is 14 years old.
Yeah.
But we don't really follow that. We
Yeah.
don't respect that. And sometimes when it concerns religions too, it's not like I want to talk about religion. I want to talk about, but there's some things that we are not seeing, or maybe it is there but people are not seeing. Take for example, there is this scripture: "Spare not the rod and spoil the child."
Yeah.
People misinterpret the scripture. Pastor misinterpret the scripture. You want to discipline the child the way he should grow, but they forget about the fact that so that he will not depart from the Lord. They just use the discipline part, and they punish the child because there's what they call corporal punishment. They flogging. Yes, so they misinterpret that scripture and say, okay, so since you want to be stubborn, I will deal with you. So most of the times, those are some of the things that sometimes religious organizations or religion practices that are limiting the practice of child abuse, or not fighting against child abuse.
Yeah, so you spoke about the age at which a child is supposed to maybe be enrolled or start laboring officially in Cameroon. Do you think our system is as broken as it is said, and it's also a cause that is forcing children or parents to push their children into laboring and depriving them of their childhood, or is it that we don't have other alternatives through education?
I will not say our system is broken, and I will not say our system is fine. We have a lot of things that we are actually struggling from, but looking at the system, there are norms, there are laws governing children and child rights, and one of which is, if you want to talk about a child's right to education, and if you want to look at the recent crisis in Cameroon, which has led to a lot of thousands of people being IDPs and all that.
Yeah.
So if you want to look at that and look at the level of street children now, you see that is alarming. But if you want to look at systems and laws, I will say that maybe the system governing the child labor or child rights in Cameroon is lame and very weak. For instance, February 19, 2001 law governing child rights, the right to education, is stipulates that public education for primary school is free.
Yes.
But today is it free? I'm sure when I was growing up, I think that thing was like the Pages PTA was around 1.5. Now I see it should be something 20-something thousand for that. I don't know, my figures might not be right, but I know that there are parents who cannot still afford. So is it that the system is broken or the system is not broken? So if maybe communities can come together and churches can come together, CSO can come together, and maybe put resources together. If we can have like Caritas that they provide resources to maybe vulnerable children. I think NISA also does that, and Teen Alive they also do that. If they can provide resources to some of these vulnerable children and say, okay, this is the case, how many parents are available, or you check the vulnerability criteria of the parents out there and you see, okay, these are those that can actually afford basic education.
Yeah.
Let us put this in place and put this in place. I think that is going to reduce a lot of children who are suffering from neglect out there, and those with respect to child labor and child exploitation.
Yeah.
Even looking at our systems in the market, people, if I want to talk about probably tax collectors or how they go to the market and run things, maybe they just go and collect 100 francs from people and just shift. They don't look at the children who are there selling.
Hawking, yeah.
Yes, they don't look at they just pass. They don't take that into consideration. But I think it's something that the government can actually look into, and I think it's something that the community can actually look into.
Okay. You wish to add something?
I think that one of the major ways to fight against child abuse is to empower the parents.
Yes.
To make sure that maybe they start either income generating activities, because from observations, most of the abuses within communities or households are because of lack of maybe resources within the household to help the children.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it at the level of intentional acts and non-intentional acts against child labor, or maybe acts maybe committed within households because of lack of resources. Look at parents who maybe assign children with certain activities, for example, sending children to go on streets to sell. It's because they lack resources, and if the resources were there, they wouldn't have been doing such maybe carrying out such activities. But if you empower the parents who are willing to learn and improve their situation, they will limit the level of child abuse within the community. I don't think it is just limited at the level of sensitization, but developing the parents in terms of income generating, then it's going to go a long way to curb the rising rate of child abuse within our communities. We understand that we find ourselves within maybe in a post-conflict situation where most of the parents who are displaced, IDPs, are still vulnerable. But if we look at it from this angle of empowering the parents, and so that they can have one or two activities to carry out, they will limit the rate of maybe street children and also all whatnot.
Okay. Miss Berlin, you've been very quiet. So we've given a lot of excuses to excuses like poverty and cultural norms, like, and many reasons why we think that child labor is widespread in our community or in our communities or societies these days. So do you think that we are equipping these elders, these parents, these people enough, the leaders, to recognize when child work turns into child labor?
Okay, I would say first of all, a child, normally when you say child labor, it means worst forms of child labor, because a child, normally you're supposed to assist your parents, you're supposed to work.
Yes.
So where we come and see it now as we are abusing them is when we give them worst forms of child labor. That is things that is above their capacity, like maybe you're sending your child out for prostitution. That one becomes a worst form of child labor that is above the child's capacity. So with your question, I would say they know. With your question, I would say that child labor as a whole is, how will I put it now? I would say the children are supposed to work, but to an extent, they should be given what is
what
within
they
their
can
capacity.
do.
what they can do.
Okay, like for example, what will you really term? Okay, let me just use like an example of I don't know if I should say, you earlier mentioned lifting an engine, helping an elder to maybe lift an engine or something. I think there's a way that if you even want a child to learn mechanics or basics of mechanics, because it's also a step-by-step process. You don't just get into telling the child to leave this. I think there's a level at which you just need to let the child know that this is this, and maybe the highest things that the child could bring to assist you is maybe like the screw, how do they call
Screwdriver, spanner.
yeah, those spanners and things like that. I think that is what a child, let me say like 7, can carry. You don't send a child to help lift an engine. If something happens to the child, you'll be like, okay, it's an unfortunate situation, but then the child was not supposed to be doing that. So I think there are things that the children, we should, the parents or the guardians that are living with the children should do for the children to see, and when they have a certain level, they can actually assist with those things, not like take up the complete responsibility. But where I think our leaders or parents fail is that most of the times they like give the responsibility entirely to the child, and they don't like guide the child through the step-by-step processes instead. So okay, look at in our home, sometimes a mother will be in the house, or maybe she's at the neighbor's place. All right, go and buy fish. You go and buy fish. You think that mom is doing the cooking. You bring the fish. She says, fix the fish. Do like this. Do like this. Or maybe she just tells you, fix the fish. No direction. If you don't do it well, you are punished. So, and then I think someone was using an example yesterday. When you fix it, you do this. You put it on the fire, and at some point, you see that many children get burnt sometimes because they start cooking at ages where they are supposed to be observing. So I don't know, where do you place that?
Okay, you said they start doing things that they are not supposed to do. Where should you place that? For that one is because you have used the example cooking and rest. That one, like that was, I would say that's a household chore. You cannot really say they are laboring the child, because probably that would not be the first time for them to cook fish in the house. Normally, a normal child is supposed to know that if your mom is in the kitchen, you are around, probably. So you must have seen it a couple of times. She will not just wake up one day and send you like that. She believes that no, this child has seen me doing it 1 or 2 times, so I believe she should be able to do it. Not like,
I think there are cases where the child has not like experienced it. Like what I'm trying to say is that there are stages at which the child is supposed to observe, and then there are stages at which the child is supposed to be doing. Like if, let me just say, you're sending a 6 or a 7-year-old, so maybe go and cook fufu corn. The child doesn't even have the strength to stay. Let's assume that the household is a 6 to 7 people household. You're not there to guide. You're not there to like maybe, okay, you just start the process and then I'll take over when it becomes tough. You like completely leave it to the child and you're not even around. When the child gets burned, what do you really term that? That's like what I mean.
Okay, that one is a clear example of child labor, I would say, because you said she is 6 and she's cooking for, the child is young, 7 years, and she's cooking for a house of 6 people. I don't think, or I don't advise any parent to allow a young child as such to be doing such, because she does not have the capacity. The child does not have the capacity to be doing that particular activity at that time. So it's child labor.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. All right, so when a child drops out from school, we've had like excuses like maybe poverty, lack of resources for not allowing the children going to school and all the like. So but now when a child drops out of school, whose failure do you think it is? Is it the community's failure? Is it the family's failure? Is it the government's failure? Is it the church's failure?
Okay, I think I have something small on that to say.
Go ahead.
I would say it's a collective responsibility. That means everybody is responsible. The society, the government, the parents, like the community, because it's each and every person's responsibility to see that a child is in school. So if the child is not in school, you cannot come and blame the parent. You cannot come and blame the parent that why is your child not in school, because he made a statement here that back then you were paying PTA 1.5, now it's 22,000. So normally, if it was still at that time where the PTA was 1.5, that means every child will be in school, even if it's a government school or house. So for me, I would say it's a collective responsibility. Everybody is responsible, because it's a responsibility to see that the child is in school.
Okay. Mr. Collins, you have anything to contribute?
I wanted to contribute, maybe not in this particular question, but the one you asked her before.
Okay, you can
Yes,
still.
I think that parents need to, first of all, she talked about capacity. When you look at the capacity of a child, and what maybe parents call responsibility and skills within the household to train children to grow up being responsible, and also knowing what to do at what time and with whom to carry out the activity.
Yeah.
Within certain households, you discover that maybe activities are assigned to children to carry out within the household, regardless of the age. But to parents, they misinterpret or they term it maybe they're building the capacity of the child.
Yeah.
But we are also aware that as a child, it is also the best in terms of development. When you are a child, it is that right time where you can easily absorb and keep things in mind.
Yeah.
But parents should also be aware that at that stage, if you don't manage that stage very well, they will go wayward. You need to measure their capacity, know what they can do, and also the absorption level. Because if you don't play with this, maybe in these areas well, the child at a certain stage, even when the child was clever, you see that the child's ability has dropped down.
Yeah.
But if they measure the capacity, the skills of the child, and how the child absorbs maybe new things, they will be able to manage the children and they go on well.
Okay, thank you very much for that addition. Mr. Carlson, do you think that enough is being done? Like, we talk a lot, we react a lot to scandals, but do you think that a lot is being done to help survivors who have experienced labor-related abuse to recover physically, emotionally, and spiritually?
I don't think enough is being done. I think a lot still need to be done, and reasons being that, first of all, like Mr. Collins was saying, he was just from the field today, and if you were out on the field, notice that there are a lot of things that people might think is right, which is not right.
Yeah.
And I think aside sensitization, there is how can I put it in? Like a collaboration of maybe different stakeholders that need to come together to see how to end child abuse. Take for example, if when we have maybe major events in the country, you can find imams or lamidus, hierarchy, fathers and pastors, reverends together on one spot, that sitting on one spot in that same event.
Yeah.
If all those people can come out and have one voice that, okay, we have to end this thing, I think it's going to go a very long way.
Yeah.
But if you are here today, let's say, okay, Catholic this way is raising the flag, no against this thing. There's another religion that way, saying that those people are just making noise. They don't know what is happening in the field. You understand? But if all of them can come together and raise one voice that, okay, let's stop this, I think it's going to go a long way to see how we can end this. So I think a lot still needs to be done when it concerns ending child abuse and child labor, even at the level of rural areas and all that. Maybe communities need to train maybe social workers, because communities lack social workers to be able to identify what actually is child labor.
Yeah.
They need to train social workers, even in churches. If churches can come, sometimes child abuse happen right in churches. But it is hidden because it's my papa, it's my pastor, we cannot report him. You understand? They will say every man has a fault. Nobody is perfect. But if there can be a system like I know some churches have suggestion boxes.
Yeah.
If every church can have that thing outside, where you have maybe something I have to write and report a case, if anybody can just pass and say, okay, there is this thing, or we have, how do they call it? Is it a hotline, a toll-free number, where people can actually call and say, okay, there's this case where your number will not even be identified. There's this case, there's this person that has done this act and this act. I think it's going to go a long way, because some of the religious organizations, some of the NGOs that are supporting or are helping children that are facing child abuse, some of them are actually perpetrators. Exactly. Yes, especially in their safe spaces.
Yeah.
They have safe spaces for children who have been violated, but sometimes the children are still violated in those safe spaces and they cannot actually voice it out. But if we have toll-free numbers that can be called and immediate action is being taken, I think it's going to go a very long way. And maybe if the social affairs can, the Ministry of Social Affairs can actually provide that, because if we're talking just about NGOs, people have a stereotype idea when it concerns NGOs. He knows that person, he knows this person, they will not do anything. But if you can call directly up there, I think an action will be done, and I think it's going to be reduced.
Okay, you do work with children, and then you have the ability to, I don't know how, if I should say, transverse their minds, like especially the children who have been victims of such things. Do you think that enough is being done? Like, when, let me just say, maybe you have a session with the child, and then maybe the child returns home or back into the community. Do you think that what is being done is enough to help them recover and completely, like, to completely recover from the bad experiences that they faced?
Okay, when working with children in general and with everybody as well when concerns their mental health, you need to take into consideration their environment too, and where they act, and whatever they're facing is where the hazard is. So first of all, when you're working with children, when you have been maybe violated or are going through stress or mental health related issues, you work alongside with their parents.
Yeah.
You can have individual counseling sessions with them, but afterwards you need to talk to the parents that, okay, when you go home, this is what you do to this child, this is how you have to talk to this child, because at the end of the day you might actually develop something or work on something, and the parents go and shatter it down in the house. So you work with that, and that's the reason why we actually organize maybe radio programs and community mobilization, and organize talks and talk to people on how to interact with children, especially children with learning disabilities. These children are going through a lot because they don't really understand how we understand. They don't really interact with us that way, but they have their way. They have that giftedness that it helps them a lot. But when they are not understood, they become very frustrated. So I think when we work with them, lad, we actually work with the parents and the community as well.
Okay. Any further contributions?
Yeah, also, if we look at cases, most cases within the communities, we discover that they tend to silence them because of stigmatization.
Exactly.
Most especially. And in communities where they have not had any training or sensitization on child abuse, you will discover that people who are abused, or maybe the community members, tend to mock the victim or the survivor of the act. But if sensitizations are carried out collectively, and putting proper measures within communities to ensure that such cases are reported with the consent of the victims or the family members, it will go a long way to actually help then reduce this child labor and abuse within communities. Then again, when we talk about the child, we discover that most of the abuses within communities are caused by excitement.
Yeah.
It is also the excitement stage in children where, if care is not taken, some of the abuses will be caused by the victims themselves within those communities, and reports will not ever come out because they believe it's already a norm for them within the community to carry out such activities. You will see maybe a lady of a child of 17 getting to 18 years, she already has 2 children, not twins, with a difference of 2 years in a community. But now they are comfortable with it. I remember a minor told me in the community, she asked me a question that, do you know the joy that comes in childbearing? That there are children who are more than, there are people, adults who are more than 30 years or 40 years who do not have children.
Yeah.
But look at me, at 16 I already have a child, and at 18 I already have 2. You see, there's a lot of work to be done in such rural communities because excitement has already covered the minds of children, not only the children, but the parents have a lot of responsibility, and we also need to help. It is a collective activity, as we widely said.
Okay. Thank you very much for that elaborate contribution. So we are here trying to restore the dignities and the to help these children and our communities, to help the children as well to fulfill these dreams that have been silenced. So how do we help or guide these parents and leaders and community members to value these children how they are supposed to? Because I think it's like the fact that we can have children, or the joy, or that we know the joy in having children, just causes excitement, like you said. And then I don't know if we are really prepared, or if people are really prepared to have children, or they just want to have children. Because you cannot be using you cannot use poverty as an excuse to push your child or force your child into labor when they don't even have the capacity to do it. And then you come back and you start saying that you have 6 children to feed, you name this one this, your doctor, you name this one this, but you don't even have the means to send them to school. How do we get these people to understand that there are like a lot of things to put in place before having children, and then how do they get to value these children?
I think people who value children actually value the future, because children are the future. That's what they say.
Yeah.
But we, in our context, don't actually see it that way. But people who value children, they actually value their tomorrow. I'm not saying that your children maybe going to be a source of your income tomorrow. No, I'm saying that people who value children actually know the importance of tomorrow. Meaning that if you have in mind to maybe have about 4 children, you should go with resources and responsibilities. It is, I think, people have money but their children are wayward. And people do not have children and they have resources. But now, if you look at responsibility, being aware of issues related to children and child development, putting your children on a positive path will go a long way to build not just the capacity of the children. It will help to improve the community's ideology on development, living together, and also seeing the future of that community being positive. But if you just get up and you are just giving birth to children because you think that you are man enough. I've seen cases where maybe somebody dropped out from school. Maybe she got married, yes. Then she was just one after another, and she was naming the children after her friends who continued with their studies. Yes, and they will sit at home and they will call the friend, my dear, how are you? Yambombo want talk for you. Yambombo say you never chop today.
Very hilarious.
Planning is a key.
Yeah.
When you don't plan before you start, you will definitely fail. And you will not blame people. You will not blame your community. Yes, it is a collective activity. Yes, but you need to plan first. You need to build your foundation before you blame others. Wash your hands before you look at any other person's hands, which are dirty within, maybe beside you.
Yeah. Okay. Anything?
I have this question. What about a family where I don't think they had everything planned, and the woman gives birth to 9 or 7 children. You know, you have had these cases. So is it like is it like it was not planned, or now they cannot actually afford for all those children? It's not like it was not planned at that moment. I think so. But what I just want to say is, when it concerns the question is about responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it concerns responsibilities, I think it's still a collective measure. Yes, a collective measure. Take for instance, you are in a community or a refugee camp, let's say so. Education is basically provided there, and only very few people can afford. And in that community or a camp, you have some particular families whom none of their children are involved in, maybe in education. They don't even maybe hawk to sell or to raise some income for the family because there is literally nothing. And I feel like in that community, one or two persons in that community can come up and they do a community mobilization and they talk about this the situation. Take for example, in a community of maybe 100 households, if each household can contribute 1,000 francs each, that's 100,000 raised, which can send a good number of children to school. But I think these are things that are not actually implemented because some people, like some bottleneck people, they just want to be at the forefront. Some want to be the ones holding the money. Some want to be the ones like, it's my idea.
Yeah.
I want to be the person they say I'm the one sending the children to school and all that. So most of the time, those are some of the things that actually hinder this aspect, because I believe there are actually vulnerable people out there, very, very vulnerable, that cannot actually afford. And this crisis has worsened the situation. We have people who were cocoa farmers and now their farms are a resident of some other people, and they cannot actually access. And now in the communities, they are actually beggars, which is very life threatening. So I think it's a collective measure to see how this can actually help.
Yeah.
Okay. We are going to be drawing the curtains of the program very soon. I think we are still having some technical issues with the updates, and we do not do this program without updates. So we are just going to have a call of action from all of you present here representing your various organizations, and then if by the time you're done we can have our video, and then that will be it for the program. So who is willing to go? Ladies first. A call to action, or maybe like a word that you're leaving the viewers and the various communities that are watching you right now.
Okay, I would say it is a collective effort, and everyone should make sure that children are okay. So what I'm saying is that let's come together, put our hands together, and see to it that our community is a safe space for our children.
Okay.
Okay. I'll first of all like to say there is a saying that it is only when you are caught that you know that there is the law. There is a saying that it is only when you are in trouble, or when you are caught doing an activity, that you know that the country actually has a law that is enforcing that. And in that light, I will advise that everybody try to read, maybe get access, or maybe radio stations try to talk about maybe the Cameroon Penal Code on child labor and all that, because even when it concerns maybe training your child in a vocational training, there is the kind of work the child can do, the weight of the work, and there's also the working hours of a child. So most of the times people need to know that, and parents also who send their children to work to hawk to assist them raise finances, they need to be aware of the dangers. It's not only about the dangers to the child, but what can actually happen to them. Like if the government holds you that, okay, this is what you're practicing, because for instance, let me just quote this incident. I had a friend who was doing this what they sell, this Yahoo and Gato selling. He was actually doing it well, and he decided that okay, he wants to create job opportunities. He went to his community and said okay, he wants to employ children that are not going to school to work and do this thing. After like 3 months, he was held. They say he's practicing child labor, and it took a lot of resources, a lot of people to intervene for him, and he lost a lot of money just to get out of that situation, because he was not aware. To him, he was trying to help, but to the government, you are practicing something very illegal. So I want to just say people should be aware, should try to gain knowledge on what child labor is all about, and child abuse is all about. Not just all about the violations, but just get a general knowledge and the various constitutions and law that govern it here in Cameroon.
Okay, Mr. Collins.
Okay. We are at that moment of the year where a lot of child abuse is being committed. They call it long-term holidays.
Yeah.
You see children littered all over the streets where they say they're hawking, they're doing business to support their parents or to look for their school fees. You see some in chantiers who are underage. We just want to call on parents to please check out on how you give responsibilities to children. because the security of those children on streets is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
We are living in a situation where at any moment anything can happen. But we are not saying that you should not assign your children with responsibilities, but measure their capacities and know what to give them, when to give, and where to send them.
Yes.
Because a lot of atrocities are committed every day by people who are aware of what to do and what not to do. And they have taken laws into their hands. We are just pleading on parents to make sure that they refrain from such activities and strategize and look out onto alternative ways to raise funds to sponsor their children. And even parents who have not who have no opportunity to maybe have trainings or sensitization on child abuse, please first of all work on your conscience first before giving responsibility to a child, because at that level it is the highest moment where they learn and they grow. And if you don't carry out, if you don't give them responsibilities based on their capacity, they will not their growth will not be sustainable.
Yeah.
As to maybe in terms of reasoning.
Yeah. Yeah, and that will cause them not to be able to thrive as they are meant to. I think my own court's action will be directed towards the church or faith-based institutions. You know that let me just put it like the followers or the people who attend church, or maybe even in a mosque, they listen to their leaders a lot. They believe what their leaders say. So if the leaders can endorse these things right in the church, I think it's going to spread, and then we are going to have some degree of change. It's true that awareness has been raised a lot, but I think we need to have a renewed commitment towards actually ending child labor and protecting every child's right to thrive. So together as a people of faith, I think we should have a conscience, we should have compassion, and we should act accordingly to restore hope, protect rights, and equally make childhood sacred again. So let this day not just be a day where we maybe make flyers in our various organizations, go out for sensitization, and we do not eventually ensure that there is actual change. So because our children, they deserve safety, they deserve to be protected, they deserve to like see those dreams come to fruition. So I think that will be it for me. So Caritas, God's love Caritas. We would like to, Caritas means God's love basically, and God's love means Caritas for the new people who are here. So I'd like to thank you, dear viewers out there, for tuning in and for staying with us right up to this moment. Thank you all for coming, for accepting our invitation, and thank you to the technical team. I think our videos still has not or will not be able to make it to air today. It's quite unfortunate, but that's it. So we had with us a representative from Tina Life, Miss Mungwa Berlin. We had with us Mr. Carlson Daniel, the representative of NISA Mental Health Services, and then we had with us Mr. Fuka Collins, the representative of Caritas of the Diocese of Boya. Till next episode, stay safe and be an advocate against child labor. Bye.
I'll go work money.